jumped in here, kind of a neat thing. James, take it away, pal. Introduce this lovely lady to my right, but just speak. What are you doing?
I love how the James so calm and Patrick's
What is happening?
Whew, thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful. If you are on Instagram right now, be glad you are because we're just learning all about it. What was happening is there was a delay on Instagram, but they were both playing at the same time. So I was like hearing this beautiful medley that was wrapping around in my head, and I don't do well with that. So I had to deal with that. I apologize. We have the amazing Dr. Tron. The G is silent. And my joke is because she's a real G, it's silent. Pat thinks that it's like ancient, but I love it.
He's old.
Dr. Tron was 13 years in the pharmaceutical industry, salesman for 23 years. She has gone through some some tragic events that would really stall the most stoic person. She at After doing 13 years successfully in the pharmacist field, she hit her point of impact profiteers. What a lot of what we like talking about when we unveil the stories of champions, she is a real champion. She hit her point of impact, and then instead of staying in bed, putting the covers over her head, she decided to grow and use what she learned from her point of impact to teach others how to move forward, how to rise above, how to build their own platforms. And we love it. Dr. Trong, how about you tell us a little bit about your past, what you used to do in the pharmaceutical industry, and maybe what brought you to that point of impact, which really led you to the beautiful creations, the beautiful things you do now, helping businesses, helping executives, helping people live their best lives.
Wow, what an intro, James and Patrick, and it's my honor to be here with you on this lovely Thursday night. And hello to everyone around the world that watching, seeing us here. And really, a little bit myself, it's being as a clinical pharmacist doing split on step on off, imagine rounding with a physician team, and then also doing my CVS hat, right? The retail. So I've done the both clinical to retails. I've gone to entrepreneur to helping different independent pharmacy grow multiple locations, starting with pharmaceutical startup to help with different programs and wellness. So when you talk about climbing the ladder and thinking the career path, I felt like I made it right as an immigrant coming to the U.S. not knowing the language and achieving that. It's feel like well you got it all, but I always kind of search because for me my passion's always been no matter where I was placed or where I work, I was serving, I was helping, and I was part of a big team and a community that are making the impact. And for me, has always been that hat of me is not about just an employee. Even if I don't have invested interest in the company, I led as like a entrepreneurship, how to grow the business for the business and grow, for the patients. And that mindset has always been in my blood, in my DNA. It's not, and I guess that's who I am because being the innovative, whatever I find the struggles, I try to find a solution, find whatever it is that people are stuck. I want to get people out. And that is like my passions and that always that uniqueness and that difference, that little girl that was little, that always that difference and it's just who I am. And I think that just led to my burnout. When you
Right.
talk about my career path, it's just because I want to do it all, doing the entrepreneurship, doing working, and then as a mom of two myself, I also, put myself last because serving and selfless, you always put yourself last, right? But then I think it really struck you in the moment of when your health call you and say, hey, wait a minute, if you don't take care of your health, you can't be there to serve for others.
Yeah.
That's a rude awakening right there because then it doesn't matter what you do in the past, they're not going to be able to be taken care of. So we got to have that balancing act of saying, yes, we need to serve and help others, but we got to also fill into our cup so that way we can recharge, so we can get it going again to help others. So
Dr. Tron,
it's a
it's a
little bit about
pleasure.
me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure having you here. You've kind of come into this hounds community of late and really kind of taken it by storm. You're very involved. You're working with people and you're helping people. And that's, I look at the hounds of business community with Mike, with Sia, with all of, the core people that are so important to what they do there. And your story is really, it's a sentimental one because you come to this country, you come to North America, and you're living the American dream, right? You get the education, you get the job, you've done all the things, you check all the boxes, yet there's still something kind of missing. It didn't quite fit. It was all the hustle and bustle. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey coming from, your native land to coming to America and what that was and how tricky that was for you?
Wow. Thank you, Patrick, for that question. It's interesting. Coming from Vietnam is where we were originally from. My father was the military captain, so he was the prisoner of war during Vietnam. So we were able, he was working on the American side, fighting for the freedom and all. And so right now, this country is my home. But at the time, reflecting, going back, it's like when I first stepped foot here, I did not know the language, right? No English, no the cultures. There's nothing that you're the new kid on the block who you're poor, you got nothing, you got no backup, no
Right.
family, no friend, no support, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about that social environment right now, it really takes a lot of when people talk about mindset, but it's also about what you appreciate the little things. So when even if you don't have much, but when you see the things that people do for you, whether it's your parents' sacrifices, everything they have back home to leave a country so that way their kids, which is us, the next generation, can have an opportunity to better, to have an education, to do business, the land of the free, freedom and to do it all. And it's like the dream, right? From other outside looking in, it's like you have it all, but they don't know what struggles that immigrants have to go through. So much hurdles, and it's a lot of stories, and I'm sure a lot of immigrants can testify. If you made an A or you made a top of your class, you know how much work you have to be done. Like if a
Yeah.
usual homework could take 30 minutes, it would take me probably 4 hours in one
Mhm.
assignment. So imagine me staying up all night, keep going and keep doing it. It's that willpower to better myself, so that way my parents don't see their sacrifices is 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 worth it, right? That
Mhm.
they made
Mhm.
the sacrifices for a reason. And I think that is just coming from knowing who you are and how you came about to be grateful to help others out. And that's like a little bit of snippet, but it is I've gone racist, Patrick, James. People call me ching chong or whatever, like the worst scenario. But I really think it's knowing, even if people make fun of you, is that humble of because they don't know.
Yeah.
So forgive them
Yeah.
because they don't know.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
I think you bridge the gap of giving your love and showing who you are. Eventually, people will open arms and get to know you versus you hate on them and saying, why did you do that? Why did you call me? And that separation gap. And that is how you bring people together. And that's like, I see the need of how society always pinpoint, oh, it's me, it's you, it's that separation. There's no separation of walls. Let's just put it out. There's no gender, race, or, nationality, religion. We're one.
Yeah.
We're one
Yeah.
human race. And that
Mhm.
is like, that is where my soul is like, we have to do better. Not only what I see the lack, but we have to be the one who show what's the proper way. And so when I realize what not only through the journey, when I have my own kids, how we best raise, because it's not what we say only, it's our actions. Our actions will tell the story much more. And that's something later when I show you some of the things, you're gonna have some tears on
Yeah.
from a kid who's like 8 years old, knowing the things, and because you ground them right, you teach them the right way, ethical
Mhm.
morals. It's not about the shiny objects outside, right? that we teach our kids. Yes, you can be competitive, be straight A's, you do this and get top of the class, but that's not the point. The point is when you get there, you have to help others. And if others are lacking, you need to be humble to help them. It's not about, you going on the top and think, oh, your ego saying, I'm up here and you down there and making fun of those people. There
Mhm.
are so many levels. And I think that is where we have to be the example, right? We have to be
Yeah.
the leaders who say our generation buy in, say, let's show a great example so our next generation can see what's the right way.
You have so many amazing topics that I don't know where to start. There's about 15 that I just want to talk about, but I'm going to roll all the way back to when you first came to the country. You mentioned you came, you had no community. So I've felt that a couple of times in my life, and it's the number one thing that I think affects mental health. I think if you come from another country, it would be even worse. Maybe talk about that struggle and how do you build a community when you can't speak the language? You come to a new country, you don't even understand. Like, so I recently went to Portugal, and so we have Tim Hortons. It's very easy to follow how to get a coffee at Tim Hortons. In Portugal, I had no idea if I was supposed to sit at a table, if I was supposed to go to the counter, how I was supposed to mitigate it. So I stood and watched for quite a while because I didn't want to look silly, right? And you feel separate from the world, which makes you isolated. And then you have two choices. You can either build a community around you and lift yourself up, or you can isolate yourself further. And it sounds like your parents did a wonderful job of not isolating you, about building a community. But maybe you could talk about how you built the fundamentals, like how your parents did, built the fundamentals of a community around you to make such a beautiful woman that you've become.
Well, let's put paint of pictures. As a kid going to school, normally other kids will go to, eat lunch, right? Their lunch.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting on the side, not eating lunch, and just doing my work because I need to catch up. As and that is how I stay on top of things. And other kids, and it is a sacrifice, but I think how I are able to go into the community is the basic, knowing the thank you, the hi, the greetings, the
Yeah.
universal language of those is the etiquette. When I go see a teacher, I bow, or like the gratitude, right? The the emotion that you appreciate your teachers and those around you, and then even your friends and your classmates. I think that is the universal. The universal is like love. When you show love and kind and caring, there's no separations, even if
Yeah.
you have a language barrier. If you have
Right.
something to share, that one piece of candy, that say something, right? And you say thank you, even if you have a dialect, and you didn't speak it properly, broken language English, it's okay. But you express it with your love. And I think that was, but as a little girl, I think I was more shy, not as much, especially coming from a cultures that it makes you pick on you when you're saying that the isolation, which is very true because I didn't have that community to say, you know, we love you, we support you, we're here for you. But I think it's being the lonely and knowing that there's so many people like me around. I need to be stronger to help them. And that was my motivation. Then I turned around and helped other kids who are immigrant. I became the translator in the class. I became like
Um,
the go-to person when the counselor need a translator. It was just like I can help. I raised my hand. It wasn't, even though my language was not there at the moment, but I'm willing to help people. And I think that was something, even as a little girl, knowing that I want to help people. Whatever it is,
yeah.
just put me there. That is my purpose. And when we talk about my journey, it always tell you what you want to do. You just don't know it and you struggle, but you keep going. It
Mhm.
confirm what it's meant for you.
Well, Dr. Tron, you have definitely met your group now in your community. I look at, all the comments that we've seen here from all the hounds of business. Again, the shout out that we gave them a little bit earlier, but you are loved, revered, and appreciated in that group. And it seems very much like in the short period of time, the work that you've done with that group, that you've touched a lot of people. And coming from your experience that you just shared. And those are powerful, powerful experiences for especially a young person that comes to this country, the promised land, the land of the free, home of the brave, and you're in elementary school struggling to learn the language, to be accepted, all of those things. Now you end up in the business world where you're likely more accepted because of your knowledge base, your competencies. It's more based on what you're able to do as opposed to what you look like, what clothes you're wearing, the way that you, maybe your mannerisms, your language barriers, that sort of thing. Maybe you could talk a little bit about once you kind of fell into your niche, once you fell into that, your core competency when you were in that line of work.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's putting myself in their shoes, right? How do I go? And I go even further. Like, so whatever their problems, whatever it is, I go above and beyond. It's always been that way. There's no intention. There's nothing that I need, but it's just that's who I am. So if I know that someone's struggling, then I'm gonna reach out and see what I can do. And that is like I think it's just it shows that with that only, it touched people's lives, right? You can help so many ways. You can have a phone call, you can have a voice message, you can have a message that's saying, I care for you, I'm here for you. People are so lost in the world that are just about me, right? And I'm sure you know that and you've seen that.
Yeah, I
It's
got to
like
work with
me.
James far too often. I am very well aware of what that world is like.
Right. It is all about the James show. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mark is like, do I get a shout out? Yes,
Yeah.
Mark, you're an awesome.
Mark, just stay in the green room. We made it special for you. In fact, we painted it blue like you like. So just enjoy it. Now we call it the blue room for Mark. It'll be fine. You're good. We love you, Mark.
Yeah,
But no,
and
you're absolutely like I really like so talking about loving each other and core values and the me society that we're in right now, it seems like everyone wants to shout out their differences. They want to be so unique and special that they don't want to associate themselves with other people. Pat and I stand on very different sides of the aisle. We do. But we have core values that are the same and we appreciate it. We're old souls and we appreciate family. We appreciate God.
Hey, speak for yourself there, pal.
We appreciate love and we appreciate trust and we value work ethic. And because of those bonds, we can be together and we can understand what, other people's viewpoints. And, it's okay that he's wrong. I keep telling him, one day you'll grow up and you will see the light and you will understand how the world really works. And it doesn't work the way you do, but it's okay because we understand. No, but I agree with you. Like, we have to really dig down, especially right now, and stop seeing us in borders. We need to start seeing us in people. The people across the world, they want their family. They want their kids to grow up and do better than they did. They want, to have a good job. They want to be able to support themselves and have a roof. They want to have a community. It's the same. It doesn't matter where you go. It is the same. And we have to figure that out. And it's frustrating sometimes when people only see what's different in us. So when you work with, this is totally off topic of what we were saying. So you were working in the pharmacy industry, and obviously you did what you do everywhere. And I feel that to a deep core. So I have always been at some sort of a counselor, whether I was in kindergarten all the way up until now. People see me as someone they want to talk to, someone they want to share ideas, someone they want advice from. I was in grade 8 on a bench by a school bus, and this elderly lady sat beside me and started telling me about her son and asking me advice about it. And I never met her before in my life. So I get that. But there's also,
that's called kidnapping.
You are giving so much of yourself. That's the hard part about doing what you do, is that you give so much of yourself constantly and you have no time for you. So here you are, you're in the pharmacy industry, probably giving of yourself to the people around you, and you hit that point of impact. You hit that point that you're like, I don't think I'm in the right spot. I don't think what I'm doing is okay. Can you tell us a little bit about why you hit the point of impact, what it felt like, and what your choices were at that point.
Yeah. Oh, that moment of saying this is not okay is
Mhm.
when a coworker coming back from a total remission, healed from a drug overdose that she tried to commit suicide, right?
Mm.
This is the second time she came back, and this place is only 4 hours. She only worked it, that they only kept you 4 hours, but you work like 8 hours, right? They slam and squeeze everything, so you make the best of you. So that extremist, but it's not just about the workload. It's about treating one another as human. It's worse than and that point is like there's people who are supposed to be in healthcare, in
Yeah.
well-being and wellness, med spa. Like those are like taking care of people, right? But when you wear a mask and you treat your patient, treat your
Mm.
employees less than a human and does not have empathy when, let's say, her nephew was sick and she's, is the one that normally, if, working parents, and she's Hispanic. And her family, she's like, I relate because that's how we are. We have three generation in our household. We protect and we love and we'll be there for one another, right? And when she's not able to show up for a doctor's wife, to not have compassion and empathy, at least know that, oh, I'm sorry. At least say that. No, she said, that's not your responsibility. To who are you? That your nephew should be your brothers or sister-in-law. That is a shocking for someone to say that, right? That's your
Yeah.
family. Not only that, it keep on letting more and more serious to the point of that I said that I'm not gonna stay here anymore. But before I give the notice, I want to make sure my team and everybody is well, and I know how she is for her struggles because I want to be her supporter. And for that moment, I always like, I'm here for you and this. And she said that if I hadn't been here, and she couldn't imagine if someone else are not caring, no kindness, no
Yep.
genuine,
Yeah.
she would have
Yep.
lost it. That is
Yeah.
my moment that I say, look at what we're doing, right? We're so numb to the system. We go with the
Yeah.
flow and we always say, oh, the system, and it's all about money. When you really want to talk
Yeah.
about it, you put money over people. That is
Mhm.
not how you're supposed to be. I said, we
Mm.
cannot. And I said, I don't want to put my energy in something that will contribute to a negative karma. I believe in karma. I believe in the laws of the universe. Whatever religions we believe in, that will always come true. And
Mhm.
it's just sad that someone treat one another like they're living in hell on earth. That is like so raw that give me chills. And
Yeah.
it just like hurts me. I was like, how can someone be so evil like that to have no no empathy, not just saying compassion, but just
Yeah.
knowing that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And then it just showed how much I was like that we try to help protect their business, right? Help the business grow and protect the patient. It's just staying for the patient. But I was like, no longer can you stay in this environment. I have to get out and saying I need to amplify and saying we as a healthcare profession cannot be living in this mode. How are we going to treat our patient? We're not serving our patient right. You're in it. What is the reason why you're in it, right? And that is
Yeah.
why I have so appalling conversation when no matter what industry, I was like, how come you always blame on the system? But what are you doing, right? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you standing up and saying this is not right? Or you are putting a stand or you moving out? Like you're still in it. That means you're supporting. And
Yeah.
that is where I see, I was like, no, what? No, you cannot be this way. Money is just a tool as a means for us to live, right?
Mhm.
But it's not about the fancy car and the house and all that, right? No,
No.
your conscience, at the end of the day, can you live with that? Can you sleep with that?
Yeah.
And that is like, after when she said that, now that she's gone out, she's not in the that field anymore. She tap out, but we're good friends. She's in a emotional, everything is good. But
Good.
she thanked me for being there for her, to give her that hope, that genuine care. But I
Mhm.
thought that's normal. But she said, no, that's not normal. In a normal, commonplace, nobody cares for each other like that. And that
Yeah.
is how I see a lot of pattern. I was like, that is where we need to remove our ego, remove all the things that separate us, and thinking that, oh, I'm afraid to share my secret because I'm afraid of competition, right? I'm
Yeah.
afraid of this, so I'm gonna keep it quiet. I don't wish them well, even though you cheer them on, but inside, are you really cheering them on? If you
Mhm.
really authentically showing up and really care for someone, it shows differently. And for me, as a healthcare, you deliver a treatment, and how much your energy and you love and nurture, it would turn differently. The water, if you give, that is with love, it
Yeah.
become really nutrition. But if you have a evil and not a ill thoughts, it become a poison. That is
Yeah.
the powerful of the energies that you give. And
Well,
that is where
Dr.
I was
Chong,
like,
sorry if I can for 1 second, because I think you're bringing up a ton of really interesting stuff. And the
Yeah.
healthcare field over the last number of years, and especially for us here in Canada, we've seen our system denigrated. It has just been really a problematic thing. Our healthcare system is the worst it's ever been, to be quite frank. And we've over the last little while here, we've now created a bit of a relationship with Healthcare Amplified. And we're going to be going to the convention down in Orlando, the 24th to the 28th. I got a little QR code here in the top corner here. Check it out. You can get your tickets and check it out there. But what Healthcare Amplified is doing is kind of what you're talking about in relation to having a little bit more of a dialogue, pulling some heart, having a little bit more than just that static, neutral, nobody is having those deeper conversations. And it seems like that's exactly what they're trying to do. So when you went into this field and you decided to help people, because that's what healthcare workers do, they care. There's an empathy that goes along with that. How did that differentiate? Like when you're in pharmacology, how do you differentiate yourself when you're looking around the room and it's cutthroat? Because it's business at the end of the day. How do you differentiate yourself with obviously what you have is a very caring, empathetic heart? How does that received in that environment? And is there things we can change around that industry? Maybe, again, healthcare amplified, maybe that's sort of what they're doing right now. But can you speak a little bit about maybe some changes that need to happen, first of all, on the personal level, but then as an industry on the professional level as well?
yeah, good thing that you brought that up. For me, on a personal, I think if you want to change your view, the lens that you look at anything, put that picture that person in front of you that you're caring, taking care of. If it's your father, if it's your mother, if it's your brother and sisters, if it's your kid, if it's your grandparents. Imagine if they were there, would you do the same treatment? Is your caring the same? That is how you reflect on yourself, or you just treating that as a number. The patient is not a number, it's not a statistic, right? Because at the end of the day, they are the father and the mother. Even if you don't have that level of loving for someone, you still know that they are a father and a mother of someone else. But when you have that love that you love for someone like your brothers and sisters, and you care for them, that level of treatment will be different. As a
Yeah.
system wise, it's like they put on missions and they put on visions and all the beautiful writings and different, fancy, I'm gonna call people out on fancy buildings and all that. But are they really taking care of their patient, right? At the end of the day, whatever initiative, whatever that you're rolling out, it has to be for the people, because the people at the end of the day is bringing you business, right?
Right.
Business in general, healthcare is providing the service. If we're talking about financial, real estate, you're giving a service to the people. It doesn't matter if you're in the dog industry, it's the people. So that is like, people kind of blindfold and trying to cheat the system to kind of bypass a lot of things. And I'm going to do this way and this way. And that's just not right, because that's why some people who see a burnout and they don't see what's the truth, they're like, no, I don't want this. I'm out. Right. So
Yeah.
why do you see a lot of turnover in staffing? Why do you see people are not staying? Because it's not about the money. It's about how you treat one another. When you talk
Mhm.
about HR, when I was in a role of hiring and training staff, the difference of someone willing to give someone a try versus just looking at their resume, it may look all well, but how are they in the ethical value? Would they function? Are they able to handle, diversity, cultures? Or are they able to handle stress? I mean, there's a lot of things that it makes someone a valuable asset to your company. It's not
Yeah.
about the title. Skills is transferable, and you can teach someone, right? You can teach someone anything if they want to learn. Just have to teach them long enough and they'll get it.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
point is, there's some things you cannot change, and I know that you know that. There's some time that you, in my heart and soul, sometimes you want to help people, and I always feel like there is a good in people, in everyone, but sometimes they're too stuck, or they either, how when you said dust and all the things, they are uncovered and blind by what is truly what is there, until someone really call out and saying a rude awakening for them to either hit the bottom to say, oh, I need to get my act together, right? I
Yeah.
need to not be that way anymore. And some people might go the same way multiple times because they don't learn the lesson. That is what life is all about. It teaches you a
Mhm.
lesson.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Yes, if you do not take the lessons from your tragedies and use them to level up or go higher, you were destined to repeat them. You brought up so many great points, but one that I want to talk about is that in business, everyone talks about keeping staff is the most important. It is cheaper to keep a staff than to retrain a staff. And yet, when a staff shows up and says, uh, I can't get out of bed, a good staff, they work so well, they do everything. I've worked with these people. They do everything they can. We just had this talk with Sabrina, actually, from healthcare. Um, uh,
Amplify.
Amplified.
Healthcare Amplified. My memory's not as good as it used to be. Healthcare Amplified.
Because
That
you're old.
these are the same companies that are flying the flag, and they're putting the square on their mental health square up on their Instagram, and they're putting it on their logos. And yet, when Billy comes in, that good staff who shows up early every day, who gives their best and says, "Hey, you know what? I just can't get out of bed today. I am feeling depressed. Things are going on in my world." And they're like, no, you get your ass in the seat and you get to work. This is a crazy way that we're doing it. And it's part of the problem we have such a hard time with mental health, why we lose such great people who are doing great things, because sometimes our finest workers suffer from mental health daily. And if we kind of allowed them the grace that we would give our family, like you said, pretend it's your dad, pretend it's your mom, pretend it's your sister. Anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to get in that, but I do want to thank some wonderful people. Speaking of the hounds, are amazing and terrific. Here we go.
Soaring Profits would like to thank our profiteers, like Sia from Brilliant Beam Media. If you need a producer, she is the best one out there. Raquel Flores from Connection Corner. Check out her every Saturday when she has a new extraordinary guest. Michael Asherbrainer from the Hounds of Business, a LinkedIn guru. If you have a business on LinkedIn, he can guide your way. Lisa Browning from 1000 Trees, an expert publisher. If you want to write a book, scan that code. Chris from Walking Tall, sharing stories surrounding mental health and helping to end the stigma. Hashtag Walk Tall. Mike from Purple Tongue Hot Sauce. If you have a meat, he has a sauce for that. Janice from Tosi, bringing comfort to the world one amazing pillow at a time. Scan that code and buy comfort. The Mood Disorder Society of Canada, leading Canada to promote a better way to deal with mental health.
Wow.
Before we jump in, hang on. Before we jump in there, I also want to do a little shout out to Randy House. This was a guy, one of the gentlemen of the group. We always seem to forget Mr. House. And this was a guy, when we found ourselves in San Antonio, we needed a ride to the airport. This guy, we had a great time with him, enjoyed him. Hell of a guy, a gentleman, a scholar, one of those guys you could really sit around and have a beer with, talk about the world's problems. I want to thank you, Randy. You come every week. You're here. You're such a great supporter. And again, one of these fantastic hounds. We got to get you a QR code or something like that. We got to get you on here soon, but it's always a pleasure to have you, pal. So that's rounding out the shout outs for this evening. I think we've covered everyone. So
no, I'm down with you. You know, his little butt nuggets, I believe he calls them. I read them every time he puts them. They are deeply inspiring and insightful. And yes, no, he is one hell of a guy, and he is the guy who drove us back from to the airport. And
unsung hero.
We had a great conversation. It was really good. So getting back to that kind of that mental health field, those are the point of impacts that we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. So way back when I hit my point of impact, and I would not be here if it wasn't for the man below me. He listened to me.
Mark Reed's awesome.
He wiped my tears. He really took care of me. He told me to stand back up and put my feet under me and really showed me the way. I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be talking on this mic. So I've done that for other people, but how do you do it? How do you do it, Dr. Truong? How do you, these business people, these people who have hit their point of impact, how do you first help them to realize that they hit a point of impact? But then how do you meet them on their level? Because everyone's on a different level. Not everyone's ready to get up and start a new thing. Some people need to grieve for a bit. Some people need to totally do something different. Some people need to get back at what they were doing. So what kind of process do you go through to help people in that area?
Yeah, so that's how I look at holistic approach, right? When you look at someone, you look at someone in a not just a physical body, mind, body, and soul and spiritual aspect. And that is where I think when people talk about someone and whatever they're going through, you have to get to know someone in a little deeper level, right? And that's where I think when employer and employee, when they have that challenges, they don't kind of get to know what caused a good employee who always show up, who always do their best, now suddenly crash, right? Or not performing what they're used to. They don't look at that and they just pinpoint you're not performing. You're now a low performers. You're not a high performers. And now we got to look at your evaluation at the end of the year, which is December 2023, right? Let's say.
Right.
So there's no grace. There's no finding out what's going on. So you have to get to know someone and have them open up. Because if the first thing open in your mouth is you shame on them and you have no empathy of getting to know someone, how can they open up?
Right.
You have to know what's going on to at least know, I'm sorry, I don't know what I can do, but I'm here. Let them have that space so when they're ready, they'll talk to you, not force it on them because they don't want to be forced, especially when they're dealing with a lot of issue already. And I think knowing where they are is so important. And that's only with a loving, have patience. You have to have patience and not be in a rush to solve. You're not there to solve. You are
Nope.
not there to solve anything because it's them that have to do the work. That's most of the problem sometimes when even physician, doctor, anything advice, right? The first thing they want to jump in is this is what you should do. A, B, C, D, D, right? They give you a list.
Yep.
But wait a minute, is that really something they want? So that is, I think, the strategy of an advice is tailored to them. What is the best way for them, not what's best for you on your lens perspective.
That is
how you.
sorry, that is 100% true. Like I like what you said there, that you don't necessarily they have to trust you. You have to be there for them at other times. Like, so I work with kids who have behavior issues, and I always tell the people I work with, you need to catch them doing something good. Go out of your way to catch them doing something good because they got to trust you. You can't be the hammer all the time. You can't be the person that's trying to correct their behavior. And even if you're gentle when you correct their behavior, which usually I am, it's still you're coming to them every time they do something wrong and never when they do something right. And so if you're working with someone, like you said, in the HR field, and you go to them when they're doing something right, and you get to know them a little bit better, then when that problem arises, it seems like we only see HR nowadays when there's a problem. And I think you're onto something that's an ineffectual way to be an EHR system. The HR that we have should be meeting us when we're doing right things and coming to us and saying, hey, I really like what you did here. Or, you know what, Bob in exec said that was just talking about you at a meeting. And I just wanted you to know that. So that they know they're appreciated, so that when the time comes that they need to share with you their terrible tragedy or whatever's going on, you have that understanding. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, and it's perfect that you bring up about kids. And I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because really, when we grow up, it doesn't matter how old you are, you forget that everyone wants to be loved and nurtured and be valued and heard, right? But then we forget about, oh, seniority and levels, and you think, oh, you should do this because I'm entitled. I'm telling you what to do. You need to listen, right? As a parent, you act that to your kid. As a leader in the industry, you do that the same. No one's going to listen to you, right? That is where you have to have a way that you can lead by an example of how to work with one another, to have the respect, but also know how to motivate them and cheer them on when they're doing something right, because then they enforce them. And then something's not right, then we say, hey, I noticed, James, you're kind of not happy at the moment now. But other time I'm already telling you what a wonderful you are, and I love your smiles and all that. You already acknowledge, but then there's moment you realize something else that's already enforcing, but you don't have that dialogue. If you just come straight to negative, what's going on? Why are you this way? How
Those
would
are my
someone want to?
exact words to the children I noticed today something's different.
Mhm.
Yesterday you were having such a good day. Remember when you shared your toy like that? But today it's different. Today you seem more upset. What's going on with you? Instead of like attacking what they're doing right away. There's got to be a different reason. There's always a reason for the way children act. There's always a reason for the way adults act. If we took the time and the grace to listen, like you said, I think that would be a beautiful thing.
Well, speaking of that, exactly, we just got a comment here from Chris from the Walk Tall organization and group there. And I think those guys kind of embody exactly what you guys are talking about. You folks are talking about right now is that this is an organization that's come from tragedy, these problems, these mass shootings that they've been victims of and witnesses of. And these guys have put an organization together that is fantastic. And Chris, I want to thank you, pal, for jumping in here tonight. And it's exactly that. These guys are now finding themselves in a situation where their organizations that will raise every flag and will promote mental health, and we're there now, they find themselves kind of being stabbed in the back. And this is when it starts hitting people in that really tricky situation and scenario of, I can't get out of bed, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, I'm going through something right now. There's not a lot of advocacy out there. And that's, all of the hounds know about Walk Tall, and you folks out there, you can hit that QR code, you can check it out. Great organization, great bunch of guys, and a gal. I believe there's a gal as well.
There is a gal. Yeah.
There is a
Yeah.
gal. Yeah.
She's
So
lovely.
I got to stop doing this gender thing apparently. So, but no,
Talk to your daughter.
They do great work. And I think it's just very on brand of what you folks are talking about. Right. So,
Just so everyone know, it's Todd is the other one for, and then
Correct.
Dr. La Rosa.
that's right.
It's
Yes.
the last name for her. And yes, they're all wonderful, amazing souls. And I truly, this is one of the things that if whatever you focus on, your mind, like, there's lots of studies, there's lots of things that people studies on. Whatever your mind focus on, it grows, right? So imagine whatever trees that you want to nurture, your fertilizer, the water, the sun, and all that you feed, it will
Yeah.
come. So if you focus on the negative, your mind is going to be overwhelmed with negative. But if you turn a negative into a positive, so one of the scenario that I want to say is have empathy, right? Have compassion of putting yourself on that other person's shoes to understand why they do the certain way, why they become so violent, why they become so that. So is it because society, did we play an impact to cause that person to turn against, whether it's commit suicide on them or to have a massive shooting? There is a reason for everything, right? There's nothing that's saying that person is bad. What about your reflection? So that is what we need as society, to have a lot of things that we say so much craziness, but we have to put a pause and say, what are we individually doing to the society? Are we having positive thoughts of one another? When someone say bad things to us, do we automatically want to choke somebody, or do we say, "I'm sorry, did I offend you?" Or like to calm down that anger and realizing maybe you didn't mean to offend someone, but maybe someone else took it offensive. Having that open conversation to have that love and kindness and compassion for one another, it will alleviate some of the hurt that they've been through already. And that is where people don't understand. It's just looking from your perspective, then you see that everything is about you. But life is not all about you, right? Yes, you are in control of your own life, but the life that we're surrounded is, we're part of something much bigger, right? And if we
Mhm.
really slow down to really hear all the things that's happening to us, it's for us to have a reason to telling us, hey, you need to change the way you're doing something, or your body's going to break down, right? When you talk about health. But when you're talking about any other things, it's whatever it is, there's a cause and effect, and you know it. You're willing to take that risk. You're willing to take it all. Then when at the end, when you hit it, then you complain. I did this. So now you have to reflect, and now you have to go detox, right? Get all the
Yeah.
bad stuff out. And that is how I truly see that. That's why the social media is so negative. And I applaud you for bringing so many amazing people here at Soaring Profits, along with the hounds of business community and the walking tall.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many incredible humans. But see, that's where I think when your mind is focused on a lot of positivity, you don't see negative, because even if people talk bad, you stay true to your value. You lead with what your value and purpose in life. And sometimes when people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is, you don't have to know your purpose, but you can know that things happen for you for a reason. But if you have a gratitude for the life that you have in this moment, just being present in the moment is a gift by itself, right?
Mhm.
And knowing that your present is an inspiration for others. So how would you want to leave when you're not here anymore, right? When you don't have kids around, when no one's around, what would they say about you?
Mhm.
I think it's not about feeding your ego, but it's about the you are here for a reason. You're here for a clear purpose. And because I know the time, I don't know how time constraint, but a lot of
We
things
have
that I
none.
reflect, how you all have to, because things in my life that led me to who I am right now. And if I reflect back, I still do the same. That is the power of who you are and what you're here to do. Because who would put in a position, because people have suffering. My wish and desire when I pray is, I always pray for people to always have, everyone, not just my family, everyone to
Yeah.
have be healthy, happy, and does not have any suffering. And that suffering is when you talk about physical body, the mental suffering, when you talk about poverty, there's so much suffering, right?
Mhm.
But when we have that love and generating, look at all the beautiful people that will bring your world. And it starts with our mind, and that people don't understand how powerful our minds are. Our minds has so much energy that, and the I don't know if people believe in miracles, miracles happen, but even within yourself, you have healing, meaning modalities. That
Mhm.
if you do meditations, you do things that are with a true intentions, right? And you want to heal someone, you send that thoughts and that energy and the mantras that's powerful. You send it and think and love them, and or if you want to heal yourself, you think of that locations. The power of that is it's like you have to be open to receive it and then not expect. It's like you surrender to the outcomes, but you trust the process. You keep on going. I want to share a little story is because like during the pandemic, right? One of my nephew commits suicide.
Wow.
So
I'm
not
sorry to hear
only
that.
as a family, spirituality, it's a deficit. Like it hit us really bad because we were a tight family. We used to live with 3 generations. We all like before I had my own kids, I had that was my kid. You know, I took them everywhere we go.
Right.
So it was very hard, but the hardest thing is the survival guilt. People don't talk about the people that's behind. The people behind is what that's
Yes.
always that tough one. So during
Yes.
the holidays, when people think of joy and happy, but there's people who are thinking of their loved ones that are lost, right? That are not there anymore. And
Hmm.
I think it's just that sometimes we see our view, just one view, right? We don't see what other people view, and we don't see what other people pain. But when you walk the life and you've seen all the pain and you can empathy and have empathy for others and you want them to not have suffering, that is where your purpose being, it's just like you know that you're doing good because you're here for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to share a message. Our life is so short. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. What are you doing now? The now, meaning at this moment. Because now, if your brain is here, but if you're in the Lolly Land and in Japan with Mark or in other country, like you're not really here, right? You're
Yeah.
in La La Land. So that's where the present moment is so important, and we forget. And that's
Mhm.
I think society kind of brag on multitask, right? They say, "Oh, you're wonderful at multitasking. You're just amazing."
Yep.
But that's
Yep.
not how it's supposed to be.
No.
Because even eating, you're not supposed to be eating and then doing other things and watching phone,
Yep.
TV. What about your digestive system? So you're not eating. You're feeding something else to your brain and your stomach. So that
Yep.
is, I think, the fast pace of to now it's not about what and obtaining so fast and getting all the money and then just, oh, I'm gonna be quick and then just so I can retire. But what are you gonna do afterward?
Part of my regenerative journey that I had from my point of impact was learning that I needed to slow things down. Part of it with losing weight was just being in the moment when I ate, not sit in front of a TV when I ate, not, have my phone out when I eat, to actually be present so my brain would know that I ate. And then it made me full. Part of the problem was I was eating. My brain didn't even know the plate was done,
Mhm.
and I went to get more because my brain hadn't told the rest of my body that I was full. And then in the moment, I would I was miserable. So I would always like set up a weekend where I was going to go see friends, or I was going to go on a trip, or I was going to go do something. And then that whole week I wasn't here. I was there. It's going to be amazing when I get there. And I wasn't enjoying my day to day because I was so busy thinking about what might happen in the future. And then when I hit the future, it was never as good as I built it, because you're there. You said some interesting point about lenses, and I think that is one of the biggest things we can do to be able to show empathy and love each other. And I don't think people truly understand that. Just because I had this thing with today, I was working with someone, and this child was really upset, and it was over socks. And they were the adult looked at me and said, "I don't understand. They're just socks." And I looked at him like as compassionately as I could, and I said, "Yeah, but to him, that it's not just about the socks." And that's just it. It's never just about the socks. And we need to pause and try to understand their lens. What have they been through up through today? What frustrations have they faced today that we don't know about? Did they fight with their mom? Is someone sick in the background? They have all of that caring, and all that skews their lens, so that when they spill that coffee, when you say that wrong thing to them, you may not think it's a big deal, but with everything else focusing their lens, it is a big deal. And we have to start thinking about, what does your lens look, but what are you looking through? Because you're not seeing what I'm seeing, right?
Yep. And that is the past weekend I went to San Antonio, right? Well, to SeaWorld, and I was so appalled by the mother screaming at a child, right?
Right.
Like foul language and cussing, just so mean. I was so heartbroken. I was like, that is why the kid become traumatized by it's supposed to have a loving. They didn't have that loving, nurturing. Not everybody has that. The
Mm-mm.
sad. But it's because they take it on their kid. Whatever going on in their life, they take it on that kid. The
Yeah,
same
they
as the
transfer it.
house, the husband, the wife, whatever that you have a burden outside, you take it home. That is
Yeah.
why, like when people are burnt out, they tap out at work, they come home, and they can vent to their spouse, their family. So what would happen to your family? The family got your leftovers. The
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
the low energy, and you don't have any more to care anymore. You're like, I don't care anymore. Whatever you do, like you have got to see that you nurture your workplace. It's like your family. When you treat someone, because when you think about work, you're there half of your time, right? How many
Yeah.
hours do we go home to really sleep? We spend one third of our time at work.
Yeah.
And so when we go home, we only have X amount of time and then before we go to bed. Just imagine that and the impact when you're not realizing the impact from your words, your action, everything has an impact. It carries through. And someone is having that hit, that bottle up until one day it explodes. They cannot
Mhm.
handle anymore because of the trauma that we see that it's okay. We as society say it's okay to do all that. It's not okay. We have to put a stop and say we cannot. And that is like it's sometimes when you think it's the normal for us, it's not normal for others. And that is, I think, when we're having open conversations about not only the culture diversity and what our next generation, right? Because our next generation expectation and what their dreams and what their goals are different. What we aspire and what we do is different. We cannot put it
Yeah.
on our next generation. And I
No.
think because people always see as because you lack something, you want all your kids to have, like, let's say if you didn't have it, all that activity and all the extra curriculum. So now you put all your kid in it. Now you force them all into it, but not knowing if your kid really love it and you have to hear them out. If they're a really good kid, they'll follow you. And then one day they're gonna snap and they say, I didn't like that. You forced me into it. You have to
Mhm.
have that conversation so they know you're giving them a choice. When you think they're little, they're not little. They're much smarter than you think. They know so much and they pick out all the things that you're doing and we don't see it, right? They're so
Yeah.
honest. They tell you straight. You
Yep.
say, no, that's not what you're saying. That's not what you're doing. They call you out. We have to listen to those calls and it tells you. And I think because sometimes we're too busy, we don't notice. And then when something is wrong, then we're like, why? What happened? Because you didn't listen to all the sign that they're trying to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's totally, I agree. That's totally true. Uh, Sometimes we think what we're doing is best for our children, and we will say something and model something completely different. I had that personal problem with my daughter where I was saying a body positive attitude and trying to make sure that both my kids had a body positive attitude. But every time I spoke about myself, it was, you don't want to be fat like me. You don't
Oh,
like, I was negative on me. And so that my daughter talks about it today, that, you know, part of my problem now is because you modeled this negative attitude. And I think we, like you said, we have to really, when we're around children, when we're around others, we really have to see what we model. Because, you know, saying one thing is great, but if you're modeling self-hate, then you're teaching self-hate, and that's not a good thing. And I think in a world where we seem to be solitary, we seem to want it, like I said, we want to be different. We need to start reaching out. We need to have church picnics again. We need to have those like when I was a kid, the whole block would come out and the parents would come out and we'd have food and drinks, and we went out of our way to come out of our house and meet the people next door. And we just don't do that anymore. And I really think we need to start doing that more. Let's get out there. Let's start organizing stuff. So if you're watching this, Profiteers, right now, I want you to start thinking about what you can organize in your community. Get everyone out, get them together. It doesn't have to be big. It could be just like a picnic. Hey, I'm having a picnic. Why don't you guys all come down? We'll cook some hot dogs. We'll have some fireworks, whatever it is, and have a really good time. And let's start building this together. Dr. Truong, I'm telling you right now, when we decided that we were going to have you on, we had so many people tell us how great you were going to be, and they undersold it. And I'm going to tell you right now that they told us you were amazing, and you are. I could talk to you for hours about this stuff. This is really in my wheelhouse, and you're right on. You know what you're talking about. Not only have you walked the walk, because you have lived through your personal tragedies that I know that we didn't unveil today, but you told us a little bit about in the blue room there with Mark, that, you know, you've been through a lot of things that not everyone could have gotten through. You got to the other side. You used those lessons to build a platform to lift yourself up. And now you're out there changing the world. And I think today we unveiled the story of a champion, because that's what you are. You're a champion. Profiteers out there, we got some great stuff coming out. We're gonna be heading down to Florida in January. We're gonna do some exciting stuff with financial fitness. I'm telling you, this week, if you don't watch Financial Fitness on Wednesday, you're crazy. This guy that we interviewed, he is very knowledgeable. Like, the stuff that they talk about is pretty incredible. And if you take the time to watch it, you're going to learn a lot about your money. And like we always say, you have to get your money right, and you have to get your mind, body, and soul right. And I love you all. So get out there. Let's start planning some meetings again. Let's throw some fun parties, just for, not to earn money, just to hang out again and go, hey, neighbor, you know, let's share our lawnmower. I don't know, but let's get out there and let's be neighbors again, because I am so tired of us all being in our houses and talking through picture phones. I love
really
you all.
wish all the hounds could be local. We could be like,
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
yes.
There's not enough scotch in all of the province to handle that one.
Yeah, we went to San Antonio with a small group, and we went through a lot of alcohol. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if we did that on a regular. But Doctor, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure when we can get people on here that are professionals. They do an amazing job in what they do, but they come at it from a little different view than kind of the corporate, staunch, you know, stiff shirt kind of mentality of HR and you know, the programs in which they're working within. So I want to thank you. Zen, we are all appreciative that you haven't procreated and put your child into some traumatic situations as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. But Doctor, it's been a pleasure. At the end of our talks, as you know, I know you're on here all the time watching us, but at the end, we always have our guests lead us out. And it's something, just a snippet, words of wisdom, and take us out. But for me, folks, again, Financial Fitness this week's going to be a banger. Amazing guy we had earlier today. I won't give it away. This guy's high level stuff. This guy's done amazing multi-billion with a B programs all over the world. He's really done it all. Really cool guy. So we'll see you next Wednesday at 11 a.m. for that coming out. We'll see where the world's market is, and hopefully James and I are making some money next week. As always, folks, let's make some money together. Doctor, take us out.
Well, thank you both, James and Patrick, and everyone listening to us. And I love and adore you. To be honest, you know you have my cell phone, and you can always just reach out to me because when I say that I literally share, and anytime that you need to reach out, I'm here for you. And I want everyone to really know that everyone that's listening, that they are wonderful just the way they are, and don't listen to anyone that tell you otherwise. And then really walk tall, and also love yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself some compassion and some grace, and then in turn lift others up, because that's what we are here for. Our life is short lived. Let's make it the best one, and then know that your health is in your hands. Take that control back. Don't believe in everything. If you are whatever it is, look at different modalities. There's not just a pill for an ill. Look at your whole perspective on holistic approach, your mind, body, and soul and spirit. It's so important. So we love you all. We appreciate you here. And that is it. Happy Thursday and happy holidays to everyone.
I agree. Walk tall.